If you're thinking about buying a home in Louisville, Kentucky, you might be torn between buying new construction versus buying an existing resale home. Which is going to be the best bang for your buck, the most comfortable, and provide the fewest headaches? Well, in today's video, I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each option so you can make the smartest choice for your lifestyle and budget. Make sure to stick around till the end of this video because I'm going to tell you the most common pitfall that I see both new construction and resale buyers making and how to avoid it. I'm Katie Skeen, a top producing realtor here in the Louisville, Kentucky area, and I help people just like you relocate to and move within the Louisville, Kentucky area every single day. So let's get right into it. Let's start with the pros of new construction homes. The first and probably the biggest pro why I see buyers actually choosing to go with the new construction route is because of the availability for customization. When you go through the new construction process, oftentimes you are getting to customize exactly what you want to go in that home. So if you care about all of the finishes such as the floors, the color of the cabinets, the hardware, the backsplash, the countertops, the vanities, the paint colors, all of these choices you get to make and be part of customizing the home to exactly the design style that you want it to be. Another pro of new construction is energy efficiency. When you are getting a new construction home, you are getting the best products, the best practices that we are aware of at the time for energy efficiency. You're going to see a huge cost savings in your energy bills because of things like updated and new windows, the type of insulation that's used, the type of furnace, HVAC, hot water heater. All of these items can end up being huge savings on your gas and electric bill, on your water bill, on your energy savings. So I think the energy efficiency is really a huge benefit, not only for your checkbook, but also for the environment as well. Another pro is that you're going to have lower maintenance on the house, at least for the first bit of time. Now, eventually, that new construction home is going to get older, but when it comes to those big ticket items, things like the roof, the furnace, the hot water heater, your HVAC system, all of those items are going to be brand new. And so you're not going to have to worry about replacing those big ticket items for quite some time. Another advantage would be the warranties that come with new construction. Most often, home builders either offer a 1 or 2 year home warranty. They're going to come back into the home after you've lived there for 1 year, and they're going to do a whole punch list of items. They're willing to fix plumbing problems, electric problems, touch up paint and drywall sometimes, things like that. So you are going to have a lot less headaches and hassle as you think about maintaining this home, at least for the first several years. Another pro is that you're going to have a more modern layout when it comes to your new construction home. When we're looking at older homes, oftentimes they're really parsed out. They have a lot of little rooms, and oftentimes what we're seeing in a new construction home is one of those great rooms where you have the kitchen, dining, and living all in one big room. And this has been a really popular feature in homes really for the last 15 years. A lot of people are looking for that in their homes. And so you're going to get that more modern layout. You're going to get that great room that everybody is looking for. And you're not going to have to deal with old house issues where cabinets or vanities, some of these things were just smaller. We just did it differently 50, 75, 100 years ago. The needs were different at that time. So you're going to get all of the modern layout and conveniences that you would want in a new construction home. Now, the last pro to me is actually one of the biggest pros of new construction, and that is at this time there are great incentives being offered for new construction homes, especially if you work with one of these big production builders. If you're curious about the production builders in Louisville, Kentucky, be sure to check out my most recent video about production builders in Louisville, Kentucky. That'll give you a really great overview. But if you are working with one of these big production builders, they build all over the United States, and because of that, they can can offer you incredible incentives when it comes to your financing. If you work with their in-house lender, sometimes they're giving you a permanent rate buy down or a temporary rate buy down. They might be covering all of your closing costs. In addition to that, they might be willing to cover your HOA dues for a year. There's all different sorts of incentives that these production builders and new home construction builders offer. It offers a huge financial advantage over existing resale homes. Now, new construction homes aren't all good. There are some cons and some bad sides to doing new construction homes. The first is that you're going to pay a higher price per square foot in comparison to existing resale homes. So if you're wanting to get a deal, you don't typically get a deal on a new construction home. You're not going to be able to go in and make upgrades or create value in the home right away because everything is already new. Another con is that you have some pretty big location trade-offs. It makes sense that land tends to be available outside of the city, and so many of our new construction neighborhoods are located on the outskirts of Jefferson County or even within the surrounding counties because that's just where the land is available to do these new construction communities and projects. Because of that, you're going to be further away from some of the amenities that the city has to offer. You're going to have longer commute times into work. It's going to take you longer to get to some of those just amenities like shopping at Target, shopping at Costco, the malls, all of those types of things. It's just going to be a longer commute time for you to be able to get around the city, to do your errands and get all those things done. Another con is that you are going to have longer timelines. Now, some of the production builders are going to have quick move-in ready options, meaning that they might be ready anywhere from 2 to 3 months. But if you are doing semi-custom or fully custom new construction, your timeline for that is going to be at least 6 to 9 months. Many times for custom home builds, it's 12 plus months for you to actually start to finish the process and get into your home. I've seen even as long as 18 months. So the timeline for new construction is significantly longer than your resale home. The next con is one that's really almost a deal breaker for me in new construction, and that is the less mature landscape. When you drive through these new construction homes, there are no mature trees. So if you care about mature trees and lush landscaping and lots of greens, you want to have a tree canopy maybe when you're driving into the neighborhood, you are not going to have that in a new construction neighborhood. You are going to have very few trees, if any at all. And I just love nature. I like being outside, so I like seeing all of the beautiful trees, and that is definitely going to be a con. You are going to see all sky when you're walking down the street. There's not going to be a lot of shade in these neighborhoods, and so that is something that is lacking in a new construction community. They just can't compete with some of the neighborhoods that have trees that are 100 years old, which are huge and providing so much shade. The last con is that sometimes builders don't have a lot of wiggle room on price. So this is going to be a con. Some of the production builders, we can definitely negotiate better terms and sometimes a lower price, but the builders are really going to want to preserve and protect the appraised value of these properties and the assessed value of them as well. So they're not going to be as bendable and willing to negotiate on price on some of these new construction homes. Here in a second, I want to jump into the pros and cons of resale homes, but before we do that, I wanted to make sure you were aware of my new construction guide. I have a free new construction guide for you to download. You can see the link in the description of this video. I want to make sure that you knew about this guide because I created this guide because the new construction process can be very overwhelming. So I've made a complete and total guide that's going to give you everything you need to know, what questions to ask builders, how to choose builders, how to finance your new construction home. There's so many questions and things that you really need to know and think about before buying a new construction home that I created this guide to be a help to you so that you would know what questions you even need to be asking, and you would have a step-by-step process of how to start the new construction process. So if you haven't already, take a minute to download that free new construction guide. I hope that it is a valuable resource for you. Now let's talk about moving into an existing resale home. One of the major pros to purchasing a resale home is that the neighborhood is going to be more mature and developed. So just like we talked about those lack of trees, we're going to have lots of mature trees in these more established and older neighborhoods. They're also going to have their neighborhood and community amenities already established. Their systems are already in place. You're likely going to be closer to shopping and dining and all of those types of conveniences that you would want. Another pro is that you have a higher potential for negotiating on a resale home. Now, of course, it depends on what's happening in our local market. Right now, here in Louisville, Kentucky, we are seeing a little bit of wiggle room. We're seeing some opportunities to get some deals that we haven't seen in the last 5 years. We're seeing homes sit on the market a teeny tiny bit longer, and when that's the case, we're able to negotiate either better price or better terms so that you are really getting more of a value for the home that you're purchasing. One of my favorite pros about resale homes is character and charm. If you love 50, 75, 100 plus year old homes, I am kind of a sucker for the charm. I love the crystal doorknobs. I love some of the hardwood floors that are really old that have been refinished and revitalized and brought back to life. Some of the wood moldings and trim. You just really cannot compete when it comes to charm for these resale homes. A home that was built 100 years ago has so much history in it and so much charm and so many architectural details that they really don't put in homes that are new construction. Another pro is your move-in timeline. If you are a cash transaction, you're going to be able to purchase that home within 7 to 14 days. And if you are using a lender, our typical lender time frame for closing here in Louisville is 30 to 45 days to be able to get that loan closed. So you're not waiting months and months and months for your house. Once you identify the property and go under contract, we're going to be able to close typically that next month. So that really is a lot quicker for your moving time frame. The last pro is that oftentimes these more established communities tend to have bigger lot sizes. In the new construction communities, they are often, the developer is trying to fit as many homes into this space that they own as possible. So sometimes they skimp out a little bit on the lot sizes with new construction. So in these more established communities, you might see some bigger lot sizes. Of course, every neighborhood is different. If you're closer to the city, you're not going to have that, but you might see a half acre to an acre lot size for a more established community. Let's talk about some of the cons for existing resale homes. The first and probably the biggest con is going to be repairs and maintenance. Every time I go into an older home with a client, I am telling them we have got to look at the mechanicals. There's a couple of big ticket items that we want to check to see what kind of operating condition it's in and see the age of these systems. For example, the roof, the HVAC, the hot water heater, the electrical panel. We are going to want to look at each one of these things, check the seller's disclosure, and see the age. If you have 2 of these big ticket items, that could be $30,000 or $40,000 to replace. That could be you move in and you're having one of these massive systems needing to be replaced really early on, and that's something that you need to know and something that you need to budget for. With the maintenance, there's always going to be things that you're having to maintain in a home, but if some of those items are big ticket items right off the bat, that's something you really need to make sure you're prepared for. Another con of resale homes is the energy efficiency. I can't tell you how many times I have seen on home inspection reports that either the insulation is inadequate or the insulation isn't even there. Some of these homes that are older than 50 years old don't have any insulation at all. If they do have insulation, oftentimes it's up in the attic, but the walls are actually typically not insulated. So your energy costs for one of these resale homes that are older is going to be significantly higher than that of a new construction home. I always recommend we can ask the seller for an average utility cost, and that will kind of help you know your expenses going into that purchase. Another con is that you are not having as much opportunity for personalization in the home. If that previous homeowner likes pink carpet, then you're getting that pink carpet. And unless you can afford to fix it, then you're going to be living with that pink carpet until you can afford to replace that. So there's less personalization. You're not getting to choose the cabinet color and the countertops and the vanities. Now, a lot of people with resale will choose to move in and change some of these things. Most often we see people painting, maybe swapping out countertop or vanity. It just depends on how much work you want to be able to do to a house to customize it and make the finishes and the design choices reflect your personal style. Now here in a second, I'm going to tell you the most common pitfall that I see both new construction and resale buyers making. But before I do that, I just wanted to tell you what a privilege it is for me to make these videos. I hope that they're helpful to you. But what I love even more than making these videos is helping people just like you relocate to and move within the Louisville, Kentucky area. It is my absolute honor and privilege to join people in their journey of purchasing a home in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information up on the screen, and I would love it if you would call, text, email, set up a Zoom call with me. I am here to be your resource and your guide as you navigate purchasing a home in Louisville, Kentucky. So the most common pitfall I see in both of these options is not budgeting for unexpected expenses. If you're in the new construction camp and you're doing semi-custom or custom, I can't tell you how many times people have ended up over budget on their new construction home. It is so difficult to avoid this because as you're building your dream home and you're having to decide between two different countertop choices, it just turns out that we typically all have this champagne kind of taste on a beer budget, and it's hard to give up that countertop that you really want. And so all of these little upgrades over the new construction process typically does increase your cost. So you're going to need to be prepared and have a contingency plan for when you go over budget on your new construction home. I also see this common pitfall with resale homes when you're not prepared for these unexpected maintenance issues that can come up in the first year or two of owning your resale home. So my best suggestion to you is have an emergency fund and make sure you're budgeting for these unexpected expenses, whether you're doing new construction or you're doing resale. Well, I hope this video has been helpful to you about the pros and cons of new construction and resale homes. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.